Welcome to Jobshare podcast, the place for sharing everything we know about careers for the next generation. If you are an employer looking to grow your business through new talent, or a young person looking for honest advice on getting and succeeding in a job, then we're here for you. So let's get to it. I'm Charlie Black, and I'm joined here today by my most fabulous co-hosts, Katia Douglas and Natalie Parry. We are joined in this podcast by interview coach, careers advisor, hypnotherapist and author Chris DELANEY to discuss unconscious bias, fears and early careers. That rhymed. So welcome, Chris. It's very exciting to have you. We do love having a guest.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for inviting us down. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
No, it's our pleasure, definitely. So let's start then for all our listeners, because there's hundreds. No, there's not really. But one day there will be millions. But for now, tell our 5 listeners. That's a joke too. Tell us who you are, what you do, why you do it.
Well, I'm so famous that this episode is going to make your podcast go viral now. That's how famous I am.
That's what we're hoping you would say.
So I specialise in helping career professionals pass job interviews by using techniques from my hypnotherapy background, my life coaching background, and my careers advisor experience as well. So I put all those techniques together, mix them all up, and help people smash the job interview.
Wow. That's a bold claim. Smash a job interview. Does it work?
All I need to do is teach people how to hypnotise the employer, and then they always get the job. It's like,
all right.
Are you gonna? I'm looking forward to that lesson. I really want to learn how to hypnotise people. That would be amazing. Okay, so that's what you do then. So part one, we're gonna talk to employers. So when we're in this podcast, we're really focusing on getting young people into the careers that they want to be in, giving young people opportunities. So let's have a little talk about how to recruit school leavers. So how should an employer, in your opinion, Chris, go about recruiting a young person?
I have loads of experience doing this because my background was working for Connections, where we gave careers advice to young people in schools and colleges, and we worked with loads of employers. And the best thing an employer can do is to offer a support package for that young person. Mm-hmm. Imagine when a young person leaves school, they haven't got loads of confidence, they haven't got loads of world experience. They might have done a little bit of volunteer work or a couple of weeks work experience, but they're kind of new to the world of work. It's very scary, it's very frightening. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So by offering maybe an apprenticeship, you can get £3,000 off the government to hire someone as an apprentice, having mentors in there, so experienced staff members who can meet up with a young person, chat to them on a regular basis, give them a bit of encouragement, mm-hmm. and having training and development throughout the first couple of years. So a very compact support package is the sort of the thing young people need, the thing that will help them feel comfortable in the workplace.
Okay, cool. I'm sure we've touched on this before, that the value of having a mentor in the workplace.
Yeah.
For everyone, but particularly for young people. I think that goes a long way. For anyone who's inexperienced in a role, it's nice to have somebody. It's really helpful to have someone to go to and say, help me, what do I do in this situation? But so that's the role of a mentor, but you're also a coach, aren't you, Chris? So there is a difference between coaching and mentoring.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, a mentor will sometimes give advice, will tell people how to do things in a certain way, compared to a coach who will ask empowering questions. So as an example, a mentor might say, what did you do last week in work? And the young person might talk about something they did well or something that they struggle with. Where a coach might say, what was the best thing you did last week, which directs the young person to only think of the positive things. So that's one way of coaching and mentoring a young person. Cool.
Do you think with young people, if an employer is thinking, okay, I want to recruit a school leaver and I want to support them in the best way, do you think a coaching approach or a mentor approach is best?
Mentoring's very strong because, like you just mentioned, an experienced member of staff with 10, 15, 20 years experience in that industry can give proper advice, where a coach is getting someone to reflect, to think of different ways of approaching the same problem. A mentor can say, you know, I tried it that way, it didn't work, so try it this way, or have you used this process, or use this system, or use this way of working. A mentor can tell you what to do, which can give you a sort of step forward in that workplace in terms of how you do that job.
But how do you, you know, when an employer, for you, what's your advice to an employer on how they should select a young person? You know, we've just said they haven't got much experience, they need a mentor. So if you're not looking for experience, what should employers be looking for in young people?
So the first thing is, so many employers who are recruiting young people say, we need so many years experience. Like, one, why are you asking that when you're recruiting school leavers and college leavers? They don't have that much experience. Number two, if you're asking for experienced young people to apply for your job, you should first offer work experience opportunities to those young people or to the schools in your area, giving the young person a chance to gain the experience that you're saying they should have. But thirdly, and most importantly, you shouldn't be looking really at experience, because for an entry-level job, an apprenticeship and a minimum wage position, people don't have the experiences that you're looking for. So what you should focus on is that person's skills, abilities, and strengths, their personal qualities that they can bring to the team. So many young people are just so amazing. Like, some are really clever and academic, others are just really, really creative and think out the box. They come up with solutions that you could never have thought of without this young person's innovative brain. And some people just have this amazing work ethic. They just want to prove themselves because they don't want to be seen as the young person. They want to be seen as a worker. So their work ethic is so strong that they wanting to make a difference in that workplace. So for me, don't think about experience when recruiting young people. Look at their potential, look at their skills and their qualities, what they can bring to your organisation.
Okay.
So
I
how
really agree with what you said there. I'm sorry, because we've spoken about this before, haven't we? And I think that's like really important, because we deal with it on a day-to-day basis. We want somebody to come in who's young, but we'll want this, that, and that. And it's like, well, you're not going to get that. Like, you need to give them the chance to either learn it or understand, like, you're going to have to teach them. And I do think it's focusing on like where they could be rather than where they are now.
I think part of the recruitment process for young people, so say it's like a tech company, and they kind of want creative people, don't interview them asking all these like standard structured job interview questions. Get them to do some creative activity, and you'll see the creativeness come out of enjoying that activity. So I think interviews for young people can be more kinesthetic, hands-on, get them to do things to show you what their potential.
You were going to say something, Nat, sorry.
Yeah. But how do you, so you're saying obviously not about, it shouldn't be about experience. So as an employer, just playing devil's advocate, how do I advertise that? How do I, on a job description, say that's what I need without, because job descriptions generally are a list of tasks and then this is what I need from you in order to be able to deliver those tasks, isn't it? So how would you recommend someone advertises that?
So employers, when recruiting young people, just follow the same process they do when they're recruiting managers and highly experienced and highly skilled people. Like you said, they have the job advert, the job spec with the criteria, and then they ask 8 to 10 job interview questions and they score them against the interview scorecard. I think you should kind of do the opposite thing with young people. I think you should do mass recruitment and get 100 people in a room for a day. And then the first part of the day should be like games and icebreakers, where you're helping people relax, where they can come out of their character and personality can come out. Loads of activities that employees are not allowed to score or mark on, just activities and games to help those people relax. And then a different team of employees who've not been involved in that, so they've got no unconscious bias going on, should then do some games and activities that they score for the job criteria. So if it's a creative role, getting to do something creative. If it's an engineering problem, getting to do a problem solving task, or getting to build a bridge out of straws or whatever it is. I personally think with young people, I think seeing their potential is the key thing that you should be looking at, not their potential experience or skills.
We spoke to a company, didn't we, Charlotte, where they basically followed that same process, where it was more about different activities and getting sort of 40 or 50 people in a room and then by the end there were some things relating to the job to sort of see like who were the strongest people within that. But obviously by the end of the day it sort of whittled down, but you got to see like who they really were, because I think when you're having a 15 to 20 minute interview, you can be anybody, but when you're there for a whole day, you can only sort of hold that up for so long, can't you? And then eventually you have to be yourself. So I do think you get to see the truest versions of people and who are the team leaders and the people who are sort of bit more in the background, maybe not as confident. So yeah, I think it is a really good way of recruiting people, especially young people, because that is where you're going to actually see what their capabilities are and what makes them stand out.
I do agree. It's a good way to be able to see them. But do you think that'll happen now? Like things have changed. Everything's now online and remote, and you don't really have that face to face, do they? Do you think that will continue? It'll go back to that. Where we're in a room with 40 people, imagine.
I reckon it'll be artificial intelligent interviews in the future. So
Right.
one of the shifting interviews will be you'll go onto the company website, random questions will pop up, 3 questions, and you'll have a minute to answer each question, and then that minute is recorded. So at the moment, humans watch those videos and analyze the answers and decide who to take through to the main interview. But in future, they reckon, you know, some artificial intelligent robot will just do that and kind of basically scan the words or listen to the words that the young person or adults are saying and reference them against the job role and job criteria. But they reckon there'll be a shift towards AI interviews, just to shift down the number of people who apply for the position before the HR team interview them.
I'm fascinated by that. We should tell all of our team that.
I mean, it's kind of already happening, isn't it? I mean, we've talked about this in an earlier podcast about job adverts, and there is a software that does that with CVs, isn't there now?
Yeah.
That will literally obviously motor it down. So I suppose that's kind of already happening. But it's just that next level, isn't it, when it goes to the video shortlist side?
That's for adults and professionals. I think for young people, it should just be completely different. I remember,
I
can't remember if it was Manchester Airport or a different airline, but they got a load of young people into a room and everyone had to stand up on stage and do like an elevator pitch for like 30 seconds. And they had all these interviewers around the room. And before they got all the young people to do their elevator pitch, they said, what we're looking for is customer focused people, people who listen, people who are attentive, people who are part of the team. So we want you guys to turn off your phones, have your full attention on all the different speakers, and then when it's your turn, go upstage and do your elevator pitch. The interviewers wasn't watching the person on stage. What they was watching was the rest of the candidates in the audience. And the people who got the phone out and started checking the phone when other people were speaking, or the people who were shifting because they was a little bit bored, they're the people who was rejected for the job role. Whereas the people who was very attentive on the speakers, even if they was a poor speaker themselves, was the people who went to the next round.
It's interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, I do.
Chris, you mentioned something that I just want to circle back to. You talked about unconscious bias, and I think that's a really important thing to kind of unpack with employers, particularly with young people. So talk us through, unconscious bias for employers with young people.
So basically, unconscious bias happens prior to the job interview. So whatever you put on your application form creates either the horns or the halo effect. So if you're saying, I'm wonderful, I'm amazing, I'm great, and you can word your application form really well, or maybe the employer knows you're a skilled teacher or a past employer and they say something great about you, the employer has a positive first opinion. So that first opinion acts as the initial filter when they meet you. They kind of want you to do good because they believe you're going to be really suitable for that role.
Yeah.
And then the horns effect is the opposite, where, I don't know, your CV's terrible, but you just made it to the recruitment round, or you're going for a position and someone says, oh, you're hiring that person. Actually, they've got a really bad reputation. That can affect the prejudgment that the interviewer has on that person, which then creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if I believe you're going to do rubbish in the job interview, my behavior as the interviewer subtly changes. That affects the way you behave in the interview, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think you're going to do bad, so you do bad. So now I believe that you're going to be bad in the job role. So that's the initial part of unconscious bias. And then you can go into like the initial stages where you meet someone.
So how do you avoid that? Do you have people interviewing that didn't do the paper sift to begin with?
So it's very hard to avoid unconscious bias because it's just automatic. As soon as you walk downstairs to meet a person to interview, you make an instantaneous millisecond opinion People think that you make an opinion in 3 to 5 seconds. You don't. You make it in the instant moment. As soon as you see someone, all this data, all this information pours into your brain, and you get a gut reaction, though they're suitable or not suitable, they're likable or unlikable. And that initial filter can be affected by a high number of different criteria. The person's body weight, as an example, will give you a positive or negative opinion. There was an experiment where they sent the same CV off to hundreds of different employers. 50% of the CVs had a photo of an average weight individual. The other 50% of the CVs had a photograph of an obese person. And the results came back showing that if you had a photo of an obese person with the same application, the same CV, you was less likely to get a job interview, because generalizing, people see obese people as being lazy, even though they're not, and it don't even need to be a criteria for a high number of job roles. The other thing as well, like, I don't know how attractive you guys think I am. Like, don't all start shaking your head now. But
I mean, do you want to score out of 10 or?
There was like a really awkward silence then, wasn't there? I was like, oh, this is gonna be awkward. I'm gonna be truthful, I don't know. But if you found me attractive, you would have thought I would be a better interviewee, because we associate a positive trait with attractive people. So we call this the beautiful is good bias, where we see someone who's attractive and we think they're going to be a great employee. We think they're going to be intelligent. We think they're going to be charismatic, and we think they're going to be a great team player. This is before we've even asked anyone any job interview questions. So unconscious bias can be on gender, can be on age, can be on height, can be on the clothes someone's wearing, the colour of that person's hair, if they've got facial tattoos. It can be on any number of different traits. And some interviewers are sexist, are racist, are all the isms, and it's very hard to change their opinion. But a lot of people have these initial thoughts because their culture or the background they grew up in or the house they grew up in, create these unconscious thoughts. They don't even know they're happening. They just get a gut reaction and they don't know why. So as an example, if I grew up in a household where I thought women shouldn't do traditional masculine roles, but I currently don't believe that, I'll still in the back of my mind somewhere kind of have that thought. So it affects my judgment of the person I'm interviewing.
But don't you think that sometimes that gut reaction might not always be unconscious bias? It might be, like a protective response, like this just doesn't feel right. Like when you're in a bar and you just know that guy over there is going to come over and invade my space and make me really uncomfortable, and I don't want to talk to them. You just know, you have that feeling already. Is that unconscious bias, or is that protective? And if it's like a protection feeling, then I don't know. When we're making judgments at interview, we do get a gut feeling. What do you think, Chris?
So this all comes back to our ancestors, the hunter and gatherers. We'd meet someone, we'd go, are they a friend or a foe? And this is where it all comes from. We're taking all the information to keep us safe. So in that bar example, that's perfect. You kind of want to go with that gut reaction, that emotional feeling that person seems so dodgy that I need to either escape or report them or, do whatever I need to do. So this is when you should be listening to your gut reaction. But in a job interview, you need to be listening to your logical, analytical mind. There's been loads of researches on what is the best way to interview people. And you can have an informal job interview where you meet someone, you sit down, you just chat, have a nice conversation. A little bit like we are today, where we don't really plan all the questions. It's a bit ad hoc and we'll just see what happens. And you guys all think I'm wonderful and great because you get that positive gut reaction about me, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. Yeah.
I can see you still not nodding that well. I don't think I'm attractive, but I'm a nice person. This interview is going terrible. But so you get these gut reactions from the informal job interview. So you might go, this person seems suitable for the role, so I'm going to hire them. But the research shows that it's very hard to predict the job performance of someone using an unstructured job interview, because you can't really compare them against other applicants. You ask them different questions. You can't really compare them against the criteria to job role, because in a structured job interview, you weigh up each answer against the criteria on the scorecard. So it's more of a logical, analytical decision. So what you need to do in a job interview is kind of turn off that gut reaction, that emotional reaction, and be more analytical and be more logical in your hiring decision process.
Okay, so what happens? what happens if you're being analytical and you're going through, you've got this set criteria and you're interviewing and you're like in your 3rd out of 10 questions and you're thinking, this person is just not like, they're just not right for whatever reason. They're not the right person. They're not answering these in the right way. I'm really trying, but we're not getting there. Do you have to do that interview all the way through, or do you just call it a day?
So this is where the interview identity comes in. So your initial impression is based off unconscious bias, and the interviewer's behavior affects how you behave in that job interview. So even though you might be great, you can sometimes act in the opposite way to your natural character. And then normally by the time you've asked the first or second job interview question, which is, what skills and experiences do you have for this position, or tell me a little bit about the company, you kind of get that initial impression that they got a high level of experience and knowledge for the job role and their level of confidence, and that creates an interview identity. So one of 16 identities, and that is often that main filter, because the employer with unconscious bias might go, right, I can see that I'm being ageist, so I need to be aware of that and try and not use that filter. But because I want to hire someone who's suitable for the role, when I'm weighing them up against their level of knowledge and experience and their level of confidence, or how they communicate their competencies in a job interview, I'll make a snap judgment that I'll believe in, because I only want to hire suitable people. So sometimes in the interview, you'll ask the first question, get that gut reaction where it's like, they're good, they're nice, or, they got some experience, but it's not the type of person I'm looking for. The interview then turns off, stops listening to the answers, will just make less marks on the interview scorecard, and will not ask additional questions, will not encourage the applicant. Even their eye contact and gestures completely change, because they're no longer interested in that person.
So when someone gives a bad interview, it's the interviewer's fault, not the interviewee.
No, it's so the interviewer, it's the interviewer's perception of the interviewee, but the interviewee has to communicate their competencies confidently. Because if I've got loads of skills and experiences, but I don't tell you guys, or I tell you guys, but it's not in an engaging way, you're not going to want to listen to me. You're not going to want to hire me. So it is down to the interviewee to talk about their skills, experiences, and qualities in a way that makes them employable. But it's also up to the interviewer to design a process that gets people to relax, gets people to be comfortable, get people to talk about, things that are important for the job role. One way the job interview process is moving is more to like a strength-based job interviewing, where instead of saying, tell me a time when you did this, or how do you complete this task, they ask you preference questions. So would you prefer doing this, or would you prefer doing that? And they validate your answers against the company culture and the values of the organization, as well as your job duties. So it's more about people's motivation, people's values, people's ethics, and how they prefer to work in the workplace.
I think that's something we've said before, isn't it? I do think we've said for both employers and for young people, it's really important to match your values to the company and vice versa. And I think if you think about interview questions in that way, so like you're saying about the values and, the mission of the business and all that sort of stuff, that will naturally then fit, won't it? So those kind of, the reason that you're coming to the decision you are is because actually you weren't a good fit based on your values and theirs.
People will have 3 different careers in their lifetime, and they'll job hop, so they change jobs every 3 to 5 years on average, compared to our grandparents or their parents who had a job for life. They left school at 13 or 14 as an apprentice, job for life, and then got the golden handshake at the end and the golden wristwatch. That just doesn't happen anymore. There's about 10% of jobs in the next 10 years currently don't exist. So we will be applying for jobs in 10 years time that just don't exist at the moment. We've got no idea what those jobs are going to look like. And organizations and businesses that we think are, worldwide, global, dominating businesses will not be here. We've seen it with retail during COVID. Retail companies that was doing dead well have now gone bust, and the banking crisis, and there's loads of different events globally that affect the job market in the UK. And on top of that, you do get people across the globe applying for your job as well. Maybe not young people so much, but when you're a professional, because someone in America can do your job if it's a job that you can do online. So there's all these changes in the job market. So what employers are wanting now is people with the right values, with the right work ethic, the right motivation, with the same mission and vision as them, because they know that people will just leave at a drop of a hat. There's no kind of organizational loyalty anymore. So The change is, let's get someone who's got the same values and mission as us, who's got the same idea, the work ethic that we got, and then you'll create like a tribe or a team that works so well together that people stay for a lot longer.
Okay, let's move on to part 2 then. So we are focusing on advice for young people. And it's, we're coming into the summer now. There's all these young people leaving school, having done exams that aren't really exams. They are, and the young people that I've spoken to recently, and I'm also a school governor. So one of the biggest problems is our young people, what I keep hearing is our young people, they're really uncertain. They don't know what the future holds. And Chris, you've already mentioned earlier about, 10% of jobs that we'll be applying for don't exist right now. So how can young people prepare for that? How can they be kind of at ease with the future when who knows what's going to happen?
I think you have to do A to get to B, and then B will lead to C, and it's this like linear path. So I go do my A levels, I'll go study a certain qualification, and then I have to do that one career. Where it doesn't really work like that. If you want to study medicine and be a doctor, then that's quite a linear path. But often by doing a particular higher education qualification, that can lead you into loads and loads of different careers. You might end up living and working in a completely different country when you're 21. You've got no idea what's going to happen. And really, it's your kind of mindset and your frame of reference. If you think you have to do A, B, C to get this desired outcome that you want, you're kind of going to be quite focused on that. Where if you kind of have a mindset where it's all about like learning, it's about being educated, it's about gaining new skills and new experiences, and kind of get curious about the world is a really good thing to do. Like see everything as a challenge and look at ways to get new experiences. If you have that mindset, it's a real great starting point when you're setting out on your career after high school.
So don't stress about it. Don't worry that there isn't a grand plan. And that, I think, that's right. In the past, in history, when we had this kind of traditionalist view and we left school and we got apprenticeships and they were our jobs for life, everything was all kind of set in stone. Whereas now, being curious, I really like that as a takeaway of, if you haven't got a plan, just be curious. Just try stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many options now. So you can, when you leave school at 16, you have to do some sort of education. So that might be going to college or getting an apprenticeship. We've got T levels that are coming out now. So a T level is when you get going to college, but they work very closely with employers. They spend a lot of time in the workplace as well, which is a great one. They're doing that in like growth industry as well. So industries where there are going to be loads of jobs in the future. The young people are getting trained up for those jobs, which is a great way to learn. But like I'm dyslexic and I left school with no qualifications. I had this terrible lisp as well. I couldn't talk, I couldn't read, I couldn't do anything basically. And I thought my life was going to go down this like horrible route. And I ended up doing like manual handling jobs, and I didn't really enjoy that too much. But then, 20, 30 years later, I'm sat here, wrote a couple of books, I got my own business, I help people for a living in different ways. Your life is going to change so much. It's going to be so different to how you plan it out. And it's exciting, that, isn't it? Like, it's so good. Like, I wonder what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. Maybe I'll have my own podcast and you three will be my guests. Like,
That's cool. Or maybe we'll write books. Who knows?
And I think for a young person as well, like going to university as an example, one of the great things about university is getting a qualification, because a lot of research shows that if you get a degree level qualification, you can get about 10 grand more than not having a degree. But if you don't go to university, there's loads of other ways to get qualifications or to get work experience and a duration in a certain sector to get that same level of money. So either way is great. But going to university gives you like a whole new experience, because you can live in a completely different town. Like, I'm in Manchester now. So if I was a young person growing up in Manchester, that's probably all I know. And I go to Spain, once a year for my holiday, or a couple of weekends in Blackpool or something. I could live in London, couldn't I? Or I could live in Exeter, or, I could be on a course where you get like a gap year in France or Germany. Like, what great experiences they are.
Yeah, that, I suppose I suppose it's true for apprenticeships as well. You know, because you're earning while you learn, you can move if you want. You can try something new, and it does give you those possibilities. I suppose education creates opportunity at the
Plus,
end
it's
of the day.
personal growth as well, isn't it? You're getting
Yeah.
independence,
Yeah.
you're experiencing new things, meeting new people, opening yourself up to things that maybe you wouldn't have had you stayed where you were. So I think, like, in terms of life experience as well, like, you can learn a lot, which will then help you when you do find that dream job that you want to do.
Definitely. And I think as well, because we're kind of going back to the courses, so young people go to college and university or higher education to get a qualification, to get a job. And you might pick a course not knowing exactly what you want to do, but as long as that's in your area of interest, then that's good enough, isn't it? Because it's not like you have to know what job you want in 40 years' time. If you know you're a creative person, go do a creative course. If you know you're mathematical, go do maths or engineering or architecture. Because there's loads of jobs out there who just want a degree level qualification. They don't want a specific qualification like medicine or dentistry or, you know, being a vet. They want specific qualifications. Other ones, or you can have different qualifications and different experiences to get into that line of work. And just imagine as well that everyone went off and did, I don't know, a creative job. The organizations that needed analytical skills would still recruit creative people if there was no analytical qualified people out there, and then train them up. Because if there's a skills gap, the government and organizations will then train people up to get that skills gap. But obviously, there's quite a lot of different courses giving people different skills, so there won't always be that need. But for me, as a careers advisor, do what you enjoy doing and then get paid for it.
I like that's going to be the tagline of this podcast. Do what you enjoy and then get paid for it. I love that. And I suppose it's in that order as well. Figure out what you enjoy and then work out how to get paid for it.
Do you know what? I did that as well. So like I said, I worked in like manual handling jobs that I didn't really enjoy. And I always worked to help people. And I just thought I could never do that because I had no qualifications. So I volunteered, like taking disabled adults hiking and climbing, because I'm into all that sort of stuff, and went to became a scout leader and did all this stuff where I help people. And as a volunteer while working at the same time, I was on 70p an hour. My first job was 70p an hour before minimum.
70p an hour.
Yeah, so I left. I kind of got a part-time job at school, got 70p an hour, and then when I went for my first interview, they said, "Oh, that's terrible, you getting 70p an hour. This is like my post-school interview." They went, "We'll give you £1 an hour."
I bet you were made up, weren't you?
I know, yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Okay, so I volunteered, and when I was volunteering, I just fell in love with helping people. So I got this passion that I kind of knew I had. And that made me want to learn, because I wanted to learn how to make people confident and everything. So I started then like learning, because I was dyslexic, I struggled reading large words, and I had to force myself to learn these words. But I found what I loved doing, did it as a volunteer, gained passion for it, and then wanted to expand my knowledge and started learning, and then, you know, eventually got some qualifications, and I did the apprenticeship route as well, which was great for me.
So volunteering as well, and that's something we've never really talked about, is that maybe you're not on a course, you know, maybe there isn't, you're doing something you're on a course or at uni or at college, whatever, and you're doing something you kind of think you're interested in, but volunteering gives you an opportunity to learn something new, stretch yourself, but also it contributes to figuring that out, doesn't it? You know,
volunteering is so good. So you can get paid as a volunteer as well. It's not really a volunteer. But if you're in higher education, it's kind of volunteering, but it's not really. If you're in higher education, you can be a mentor, or you can be like a student ambassador. And a lot of universities will pay them. So you end up helping new university students, or going off to different events and winning careers fairs, and you can get involved in loads of stuff. But you often get paid for doing that sort of stuff. Or like you say, you can do traditional volunteering. There's loads of organisations looking for student mentors to mentor high school students as well. And you all know stuff like, you know, working in your charity shop and your local businesses, or doing what I did, getting involved in like the youth activities. But there's loads of volunteering opportunities for people who want to set up their own business as well, to mentor other people who are setting up their own business. to do stuff like take old people like down to the park or go and talk to old people. So if you want to work in health and social care, what better experience than spending 1 day a week being with old people and like supporting old people? How much satisfaction do you get? Then how many skills do you get? And then in the job interview, you got you who's been volunteering with old people for a year, and the next person who's just done the same qualification that you're doing. You're more likely to get employed because you've got experiences you can talk about during the job interview process.
I think it looks good as well. I think when I've interviewed young people and they've done volunteer work, it's always really stood out, because I think you've done that off your own back, not being paid for it in your own time. Like that I think that's quite powerful on someone's CV to see things like that. So I think even from kind of their own, career progression point of view as well, I know that I have picked people because they volunteered over someone that hasn't, 100%.
Yeah, and this is the halo effect again, isn't it? Because I'm the same. When I see volunteering on there, I just think work ethic must be really strong. Why would you volunteer your time for free if you had a weak work ethic? So I always presume someone who's volunteered is going to be a potentially reliable, good worker, don't you?
Yeah.
But it's the same with other things. You couldn't go off and do your Duke of Edinburgh award, and you've got loads of experiences from that. And there's so many things you can do. And in a competitive job market, you do need to have additional things to help you stand out, don't you? Like
sports, I think, as well. I think sports, if they've done anything, had a whatever the sport might be, again, it shows like a dedication. It shows that they've got up and done that outside of their normal. Absolutely. So I think it doesn't even have to be sort of a work thing. It can be something you really enjoy in your personal life, but obviously being in sports, you do have to be sort of very strict with yourself, I suppose, on certain things. So it does sort of show that you can have that kind of I suppose the ability really to have the self-control.
Yeah, definitely. And this, what you need to do then with that is, once you've got these skills, experiences and qualities from whatever it is you do, volunteering, getting paid for stuff, being a sports person, or whatever, even being a young carer, if you're caring for like one of your own relatives as a young carer, that's so much responsibility. But the next stage though, because you got like the knowledge and experience because you've done that thing, but you also need like the level of confidence to communicate that in the job interview, because you can kind of say, yeah, well, I'll do some sports because I like running. I should have been an actor, shouldn't I?
Yeah,
I like it.
Your talents are wasted.
I know. You could kind of say like, I'm a dedicated individual. An example of that is, for the last 2 years, I've been training myself to run, a marathon in so many minutes or whatever it is. To do that, and then tell them the plan or the process or the steps that you took. It's how you structure your experiences, how you sell yourself in the interview that is so important. We're not self-promoters in the UK. We're so reserved, aren't we? Tell me something great about you. Well, I'm rubbish. That's what that's like our default, isn't it?
I'm sort of all right at this. Yeah.
But you need to be a self-promoter. You need to like make you don't have to lie. You don't have to make things bigger than they are, but you just need to sell it in a way that resonates. But if you went back to that problem-solving stuff that we talked about earlier on, loads of people get asked, tell me a time when you've been creative, and they go, well, I drawn this picture, or I did that thing, or I designed this process. What you need to do is they'll tell them the process leading up to that. So I had to design this product, and the way I did that is I thought about all these different things that I thought about. The way I decided on the one that I was going to design was weighing the pros and cons of these two different, you know what I mean? So you can
it's a more detailed like explanation of like why you done it, how you got there, and then why it was good.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Chris, what are your top? I suppose I was gonna say top interview tips for young people, but I suppose this goes for when they're completing applications or their UCAS application or anything. This whole notion of self-promotion, but notion of self-promotion. I'm going to write that down.
Write that down.
That's the title of my next book.
Do I get paid?
10%.
And you all heard it. So, yes, how can young people get this notion of self-promotion into their applications or into their interview techniques?
So the 3 rules of a successful job interview are: 1, identify the job criteria. This then allows you to talk about what you need to be talking about. so many people go off on tangents and, waffle on about things that they think important, but the employer's like, nothing to do with this particular job role.
Yeah.
The second one is what we just mentioned, be a self-promoter. You've got to talk about your best day experiences, not just average day experiences. Even little things like, if I say, I'm a good interviewee or I'm a great interviewee, that change of one word is quite powerful. And the way you say it as well, like I'm a great interviewee or I'm a great interviewee, makes a real big difference as well. So you've got to be a self-promoter, and then you have to communicate that with confidence. You've got to be so confident about yourself. When your self-esteem is high, your eye contact is stronger, you gesture more, your facial expressions are more natural, your tonality changes, you use more pauses, and you have emotion in your voice. This draws people in, especially when you're using storytelling techniques.
Yeah.
So the 3 rules are: identify the job criteria, be a self-promoter, and communicate with confidence.
Cool.
Good. Like that.
I do too, but I do want to pick up on this confidence. Okay. So what's your advice here? Fake it till you make it, or try and get confident before you go into an interview? Because not everybody is confident. So what are your top tips there?
The fake it till you make it technique is so powerful, actually, because your brain don't really understand what's real or not. So if you imagine yourself being confident, you'll feel confident because your mind and emotions are just connected in like a mind-body cycle. But have you got something that makes you scared or nervous?
I feel like I don't want to tell you because
So you don't have to tell me what it is, by the way. I'll just do a very quick version of this technique, so you won't make rapid changes, but you'll feel some different. So you don't need to tell me what it is or explain it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being on the 1 being you're calm and confident, where are you on that scale when you think about this thing?
like 15. Like I freak out. I'm even sweating now thinking about it. My hands are sweaty.
Yeah. So this sounds like a very phobic response. When people think about you, they get sweaty and nervous, and the heart starts pounding a little bit more. So when you think about it, when you imagine that whatever it is, do you see it right in front of your mind's eye? Is it like a big picture in front of you?
Yeah.
Is it like a movie or a still picture?
No, it's like a movie.
Like a movie. Do you see it from your own eyes, so like you're there in the moment, or do you see?
Yeah, I'm there.
So this definitely sounds like a phobic style reaction. So people do this when we're scared of job interviews or spiders or whatever. We imagine the.
Oh my God, how did you know?
I'm also a mind reader. You can tell I'm a mind reader because I said that you all found me attractive. You all thought I was a great guest, and now I know you're scared of spiders.
You're so good.
So when you imagine this big scary thing, you see it as a 15. Like, follow these techniques now, and anyone listening, think of the thing you're scared of and follow these very simple techniques. So I want you to imagine you can push that picture in front of you, so you can see the borders of that film. So you can see it in front of you floating in the air. Can you do that? Just nod when you can. And now imagine you can pause it, so it's no longer a film, it's a stilled image.
Okay.
And when you've done that, just allow the colour to drain out of that image, so it becomes black and white. Just allow it all to drain away, so it's a black and white stilled picture. And now imagine, when you go to like an old art gallery, you get these big, thick iron or wooden frames. Put the still black and white picture into a thick, big, large iron or wooden frame. And we're not finished yet, but just on a scale of 1 to 10 now, how are you feeling looking at the still black and white picture?
Probably like a 5.
Wow,
so actually. Yeah, not even.
You want me to win a quid already. So think of the still picture, the black and white picture in the frame, and imagine I can reach in and I can grab that picture. And as I grab that picture, I'm going to put it further away, further and further away. So it becomes the size of a postcard, then further and further away, all the way to the size of a stamp. How do you feel now?
Fine.
And if I push it bigger, so it got closer, how do you feel?
Oh my God, that's so
weird. Let me take it away. Let me take it all the way. Postcard, the size of a stamp. It's getting hard to see. You got to squint to see it all the way to the horizon. So it's just a little dot. And then just allow that dot to go and take a deep breath. And breathe out. And when you think of it now, how do you feel?
Feel fine.
So this technique is so powerful. So I use this with my hypnotherapy clients, but I do a lot more stuff involved in like a bit of deep relaxation. But what you see, you feel. So if you see yourself failing in a job interview, you will feel that if you see a big scary spider, you will want to run away. Those thoughts, those images just pop into our mind, just like unconscious biases does to the interview when they meet you for the first time. You have a gut reaction to things. You get scared of the things you see, or you maybe like the things you see. That's an emotional reaction. If you take logical, analytical control, you can control how you feel. So next time you feel scared or nervous in a job interview, next time you see a spider or whatever it is, just imagine that thought, push it away, drain the colour, put it into a big frame, and then move it further and further and further away, and then just take a deep breath to relax. You can literally do that in the job interview room, can't you? When you go in, introduce yourself, you sit down, and you go, oh, I'm a bit panicky. Oh, just move that thought away and allow that stillness, that calmness, that confidence to grow inside of you. So I hope that was useful for you, Kat.
No, really useful. It's like, I'm just a bit freaked out, if I'm honest.
Mind blown.
Like literally,
That
it
is
was more when you like put it forward, like I did feel like I was proper sweating loads more, and then when you took it away again, I was like, yeah, I'm fine now.
Yeah. So
That's
I
so
purposely
weird.
waffled on at the end because I wanted to ask you now again after a couple of minutes. How do you feel when you think about it now?
I feel fine.
Yeah, perfect.
I want to
So
sort
you're
of want to
cured,
see
are
one.
you? You're cured, are you? So because it's just a radio show, do you want me to put it back, or do you want to just leave it?
No, I don't want the spider back.
I did this on my sister not that long ago, and she can now pick up spiders and take them out of the house perfectly fine. She had a spider phobia for like 30 years, gone in like 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I mean, I literally freak out if I see hair. Like, I'm like, oh, or if I see hair on the floor, like, I think everything's a spider. So I'd be interested to see when I see one. I'm actually
looking for
them
them now.
Where's the spider?
You won't find them as much when you search for something. You find it all the time. So if you're scared of something, you search for it. It's a little bit like self-esteem. If you've got low self-esteem, you'll look for evidence why you're weak, why you're rubbish, why you're a terrible person. You'll find it everywhere. Where when you start believing in yourself, when you start building up your confidence, you'll search for confidence traits, and you'll just act more confident in different situations. If we're young people, I often get them to think of 3 significant people that's important in their life. So it could be a teacher, a family member, or just a friend at school. And they write the name down, so one name on each piece of paper. And they had to pretend to be that person, looking at themselves and write down all the positive things that they think. So the teacher might think that you're good at maths, that you're reliable, and that you've got good communication skills. Your friend might think that you're really chatty, really friendly, and that you're just a great person, and so on and so on. And then I get them to highlight all the common things. So the teacher might say you're a great communicator, and your friend might say that you're very chatty. They're a common trait. So you can see what common traits people like about you. And I think doing that just gives you like a boost.
Yeah, definitely. It's good.
All these people like these great things about me.
And because it's not just one person saying it, it's a few people saying a few of the same things. You sort of buy into it a bit more, don't you, as well? You believe it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not your mum telling you.
Yeah, it's so good. We did a team parent course where we was helping young mums who were like 15 and 16 and 17 get back into education, and we did this massive course. So we did the same thing. We played music in this room. They all had a piece of paper sellotaped to the back. So it's like musical chairs, but when you start, you then had to write something nice on the person's back. So you did it for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then at the end you took it off. You read all these like lovely things that people have been writing about you. It was so nice. Everyone was crying, everyone was hugging. It was a beautiful moment.
Oh, that's so lovely. It's all about positive reinforcement, isn't it? Even like from a personal perspective to yourself, is just feeding your subconscious and telling yourself you can do it, you're good enough, and you'll get it.
Exactly that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we do grow up, generally speaking, not everyone and not every situation, but we do grow up, don't we, where things are framed quite negative. Even in school, like you got 2 answers wrong compared to you got 8 right. And our brains is wired in a way that we search for the negative stuff more than we search for the positive stuff as well. So we'll hear the negative stuff a lot more. So you got to be nice to yourself. You got to love yourself, because other people will love you when you love yourself. And if you show love to others as well, they'll be more happy and more joyful, and then that kind of spreads back to you as well. So I feel like a hippie now, don't I? Like, talk about job interviews in the book. It's just like we talk about a true love.
Good vibes.
I like that. It's good.
Cool.
I think it's important, definitely, with young people, because there is so much, especially with social media and stuff. We've talked on this loads of times. I think we talk about it on every podcast. But it is tough on them, and I think that what you just said there is really important to take on board.
I don't think we, as adults as well, and parents and teachers, we get it, but I don't think we get it like a young person. We don't see the world like a young person does. No. Some of our young people now have been on social media since they was born, and they're on, Facebook and all these other websites, and websites that adults might not go on. You don't realise the amount of time they spend on that and the impact it's having on them, even though we understand about online bullying and, we see lots of models and we think we've got to be the same as these famous people or these celebrities that we see. But there's other layers to it that we don't even know about that young people go through.
No, it's quite scary, really. You just can't control it either, can you?
No. I think little things like that can be quite powerful, can't they, for a young person? Like you said, even doing the list things. You could do that with a few of your friends even. It doesn't even, there's all those sorts of things that, even in a workplace, when you're in a workplace, that you could get feedback from, others on that, on sort of, and then match things up. I like that.
Yeah. I think like teachers as an example, a lot of teachers do this because they're very good, a lot of teachers in our education. But it'd be great if more teachers was asking positive questions all the time. So when a pupil comes in, like spending some time and saying like, oh, what did you do at weekend? Is everything, just getting those conversations where some teachers in some schools are stressed, aren't they? And they don't have those more friendly conversations with the young people.
Because you just don't have time to the resources, which is a shame really, because it could make such a difference, couldn't it? And I think they miss out on stuff as well because they don't have the time. Maybe that kid who just needs that little positive pickup because they've had a bit of a crap time at home or they're going through stuff. I
think that goes even further as well, doesn't it? Like from a management point of view, I mean, I have a team of quite a lot of young people, and probably that I can see the difference when I spend more time with them. So I think that goes even further. It's not just an education thing. I think if you're mentoring or managing or whatever young people, giving them that time is really appreciated.
Yeah, definitely.
We run public speaking workshops with young people sometimes. So we get to do improv sessions where they have to just answer like a random question, like how many apples can you put in a carry bag? And they have to just talk about it for a minute. And then what we do, we get everyone else to say what they liked about their speech. So it's just trained for people to get positive responses all the time. And you kind of see like people sitting up or, holding their head like a little bit higher. It's so good. And even stuff like just giving people like a high five. People just love a high five for some reason.
Yeah, they do. So you see those videos of the school teachers and the kids, they can greet them in like 5 different ways. Obviously not now, they can't, but like you can either have a hug, a high five, something else. But it's you can see they're all going in dead happy.
Yeah.
I thought you were coughing because of Corona there.
Sorry. No, I don't have COVID. Just a tickle. Okay, cool. Wow. Thank you so much for being a guest, Chris.
Yes.
Would you like to do a bit of a shameless plug of your before you leave us? Then we'll leave it in for you.
Thank you. Yes. So I've got my new What's Your Interview Identity, which is basically going to help everyone pass every single job interview that you go to. That's how good this book is. No, it does. It's got loads of psychology techniques in there. It's got the interview prediction grid in there and loads of techniques to help you to be more successful. So you can get that on Amazon. It's on pre-order now or available live from the 1st of September. Or you can just go to my website, www.employmentking.co.uk.
Awesome. We'll put links and things in the description too. Cool. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
It really has. Really good.
It's been great speaking to you.
Rubbish for me.
Stuff.
It's been terrible.
Has it? Yeah.
Well, I got loads out of it. I'm not scared of spiders anymore. Well,
yeah,
we'll see. Pending seeing one, but yeah, definitely feeling better.
Maybe we'll add a little bit on the end of this podcast when it goes out of what happened the first time Katya seen a spider. I think that's a really important add-on on the end, like our outtakes. Have a little bit. So yeah, maybe I could set that up. Ooh, watch out Monday.
Oh my God, don't.
You need to video that though.
Yeah. You know what though, you'll be fine now. You'll start the first time, you'll kind of go,
I'll be like,
I should be scared, but I'm not scared.
And then just eat it. No, I won't eat the spider.
Thank you for listening to another Jobshare podcast. It turns out that we love having guests, so if you've got something to say about new generation careers and talent, get in touch.